Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Slam Talk Sports. It is Friday, 1:30pm here in Melbourne. That means it is time for the AFL preview show. Yes, we preview a big round ahead. 8 big games to unpack, unfold, and tuck into. But firstly and foremostly, as always here on Slam Talk Sports on our Friday, we must talk about Thursday night football. And it was those Gold Coast Suns taking down the Hawthorn Football Club by 8 points in the end, up in Darwin in the Northern Territory, and what was a very fun Thursday night game. How many times do you think to yourself after the Thursday night football game ends like, yeah, that was fun. That was a good Thursday night football. Great way to start the weekend. I'll never think about that game ever again. It has no bearing on what I really think of each team going forward. We've got teams on short breaks in hot, sticky conditions, which are unsimilar to any other conditions you'll face really in football, let alone finals football. But boy, that was a fun contest. The Gold Coast Suns win once again. They are high-flying in the top two with a game in hand by virtue of the AFL's terrible decision-making in forecasting a game in opening round, which was cancelled. But doesn't matter right now. The Gold Coast Suns are looking immaculate in 2025. And last night, they won that contest due to their dominance in the midfield. They smashed them in clearances. It was Anderson. It was Rao. It was the lack of Lloyd Meek in the ruck for Hawthorn, which was very telling in the end. So Ned Reeves comes in for Lloyd Meek. I think he had his colours lowered for most of the evening, dealing with a couple of injuries as well, but it was the stoppage dominance, it was the centre clearance dominance, and it was the classy midfielders of the Suns which ultimately decided this contest. But it wasn't without a spirited Hawks comeback, a spirited Hawks fight back in the second half and just before half time. The Hawks looked dead and buried, in my opinion, when they were down about 30 points in the second quarter. They're struggling in the conditions in Northern Territory. They're off a 5-day break, as I mentioned. But it was the Wizard. It was my man, Nick the Wizard Watson, who was pretty much playing like an undersized full forward, similar to a Matera brother. Just say, put me in the goal square. I'm going to figure things out. Kick it on my head deep. I'm going to go screaming back with the flight, with the ball over my head like I'm Steve Smith fielding at Lords. And I'm just going to grab it. I'm going to juke it. I'm going to clunk it because I'm that good. He is one of the best players to watch in football, Nick the Wizard Watson. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough for Hawthorn to capture the victory. The Suns did just enough when they were pressed in the fourth quarter to respond and win yet another game in Darwin. If you can believe it, they are 8-0, and Darwin, since this has become their, official second home ground, since they've been playing games in the territory as part of this agreement, they have not lost a single game, and it works really well playing this game in mid-May. So they go up there a week ago, they acclimatise, they hopefully win their first game, which they did against the Doggies last Saturday night. Then they're back up 5 days later and they win again against a team which has travelled most likely from Victoria or from another state, hasn't acclimatised, haven't gotten used to the conditions of playing in Darwin, and ultimately it has been a happy hunting ground for the Gold Coast Suns. Now the Suns run home from here, it's not too hard, by virtue of the fact they were a bottom 8 side last year, the fact they've never played finals. So they should be able to build on this. They've got some games coming up at People's First Stadium. They haven't played that many games at home this year. So realistically, it would be very, very hard for the Suns to miss the 8 from here. They might even make the top 4, and then if you're a Suns fan, you're dreaming of one final win, 2 finals wins, maybe even a home prelim final. Who knows what's in store for the Suns? It is a great year to be a Suns fan. They've picked up some great players in the likes of John Noble, or Mr. 1K, as we have to call him from now on. He had 1,000 metres gained. I haven't seen that very often in a football game. No, not from an Essendon player for sure, but 1,000 metres gained. It shows the impact he's having and how important it was for Noble and Rioli to come over to the Gold Coast Suns. They were players that Damien Hardwick identified as crucial to the system he wants to play up in Queensland. They had the likes of Nick Vlauston, they had Dan Rioli, they had Jaden Short and Basher Hooley back at Richmond. He wants to employ that style and have that run and gun halfback flow, which is so crucial to football in 2025. The Suns look great. And the Hawks side of things, we know they were missing Bruce, they were missing Gunston, they were missing Meek, they're missing Nash, they're missing Will Day, of course. Now, they're not going to get all of them back next week. They're going to get quite a few of them back next week. But realistically, I'm not going to get too harsh on the Hawks right here because we know they're a very good team. They're going to play a lot of games at the G because they are a Melbourne-based side. And it was a good performance against a team which is very hard to beat in these conditions. Sam Mitchell said that last night. The Suns in Darwin are an excellent football team. We were hard-pressed to win this game. We go back home. We play the Brisbane Lions next Saturday at the MCG, which will be a cracking matchup, and we move forward with our season with a bit of confidence in how we responded in tough, trying conditions. That's it for the Thursday night recap, and we move forward to 8 big games of football for a bumper round 10. Can you believe it's round 10 already? We are nearly halfway through the regular season. As a football lover, as a football fan, you wouldn't be watching this if you weren't a certified footy nuffy like myself. It's great to see footy in the full swing right now, to have games all over Australia, to have 9 games around. But I'm already thinking, what am I going to do when it hits October? What am I going to do? Am I just going to engage in Zach Reid fan fiction? Am I going to make fake trades of Zach Butters being traded to Essendon for the likes of Jade Gresham? I don't know what to do with myself when free season is over. But let's not worry about that right now. Let's look forward to a big 8 games remaining in round 10. And of course, we got to start the preview with Friday night football, and we are heading up north from where I am here in Victoria to New South Wales to the SCG, and it is the Sydney Swans taking on the Carlton Blues at the SCG. Now the line is 8.5 points Sydney's way. Should be a tough and tight contest considering neither team has reached any great heights in 2025, but that's what we do. Let's do what we do here on this show. We look at the teams. These are the ins and the outs for tonight's game. Ins for the Sydney Swans: Joel Amati and Peter Laddams. Amati returns from his hamstring injury. A very nice in for the Sydney Swans there. And out goes Ben Patton, and out goes Hayden McLean. Now, McLean had been employed in a centre half forward or a full forward role with a pinch hit times in the ruck. So really, I think like for like, Amati replaces McLean. Laddams, they've gone with a second ruckman against Carlton, despite the fact their number one ruckman, the Blues, is missing this game. We'll get to that in just 1 second. But interesting, they've gone a little bit taller tonight. I'll see how that works at the SCG. Smaller ground, you're hoping you can clunk some marks and really stretch Carlton's defence with your height. We'll see how that turns out in a couple of hours. On the Blues side of things, Mark Pittonet comes in for his first game of the season. In comes Jordan Boyd. Yeah, Boyd, as they like to call him. And in comes Matthew Carroll. Good for all the super coaches out there that brought him in a couple of weeks ago. Out comes Lockie Cowan, out comes Blake Acres, and out goes Tom De Koning, who suffered a bruised larynx in the last 7 days. Not good for the super coaches out there. We need to decide what we want to do with Tom De Koning for the rest of the season and for the next coming weeks. Do we get Tristan Xerri? Do we just blow it up, or do we hold him and hope that it's only a 1 weeker, we can bring him back in? He's still the number 3 averager in SuperCoach rucks. Is it time to calm it down, or is it time to panic? We need to figure that out this afternoon. The line, as I said, is 8.5 points. Turn to you guys. If you're listening, if you're watching at home, what do you expect from tonight's game? Both these teams are pretty evenly matched. Neither team is in the top 8 right now. Both had high hopes for 2025. Both dealing with a couple of injuries. The Sydney Swans definitely dealing with some big major injuries. Still no Callum Mills, who will return via the VFL this weekend. Still no Tom Papley and no Errol Goulden, who hopefully will be back around the mid-season bye. Now, personally, I don't know who to tip. I'm probably going to go just with the Swans because Carlton have such a bad record of the SCG against the Swans. If you're playing at home, if you know the record, and if you can use the Google search and go on finalsiren.com, you can see that Carlton have only defeated the Sydney Swans at the SCG once since 2013. It has not been a happy hunting ground for the Blues. A lot of close losses, but some humbling losses along the way. I think last year they got off to a very nice start, the Blues. They were up maybe 25, 30 points in the first half and ended up losing by 40 points at the SCG. But that was a different Sydney Swans team. That was Errol Goulden, that was Heaney, that was Warner, that was Grundy, all in full flight and dominating for most of the home and away year last year. Instead, it is a different Sydney Swans outfit. So I expect Carlton to go mightily close tonight, but I would just give the edge to Sydney when we're tipping into the line here at 8.5 points. I think it's going to be a 1-2 kick game. I think the Swans will just get by, but I've got no great confidence in either side. From a gambling side of things, there is a couple of disposals and goals markets I don't mind for tonight's game. We've got Georgie Hewitt for 25 touches at about $1.40. He's hit it every single game that I can remember. Former Sydney Swans player as well, so he knows this ground very well. I'd be surprised if he doesn't hit that mark tonight against a Sydney Swans team which hasn't been going great in the midfield. We know James Jordan will likely tag tonight, probably more of a Sam Walsh tag you might see employed rather than a Patrick Cripps or George Hewitt tag, just because their body sizes are quite larger than James Jordan. It's like trying to tag a gorilla with a chimpanzee. Probably not going to work. Also, I like Patrick Cripps for 25 plus disposals. He's been a beast this year. Small ground, the SCG. He should be able to get in and under and in tight and fire at those handballs. I also like Chad Warner for 20 plus disposals and Matthew Roberts for 20 plus disposals. Since Chad Warner's returned to an inside midfield role, he's hit this mark in the last 3 to 4 weeks with some dominant performances. And I like Matthew Roberts as well, as he is the leading disposal getter at the Sydney Swans this season, and he loves to play at the SCG. On the goals side of things, I don't mind Harry Mackay for 2+ goals. Now, he's been up and down. It's 3 goals or it's 0 goals. It's 2 goals or it's 0 goals. He kicked 3 last week. He was fantastic in the win against the Saints. It might be 0 tonight, but I still think at $1.85 for him to kick 2 is not bad value. He's going to get targets. They're going to have entries. They're going to be trying to get him the football. Charlie Curnow will get a lot of attention, as he usually does, so I'm hoping it's a Harry Mackay night. Let's move forward. Let's turn the page and go to Saturday afternoon football, and it is a great game. In my opinion, almost the game of the round. It is the Collingwood Football Club taking on the Adelaide Crows at the MCG. 1:20 time at the MCG, as I said, and the line is Collingwood by 11.5 points. Let's look at some teams, and the teams are out, as they usually are. In for Collingwood comes Braden Maynard. In comes Brody Mahuchek. In comes Scotty Pendlebury, the great one himself. Out goes Darcy Moore with a minor injury. Hopefully he's back next week. Out goes Lachie Schultz with that terrible concussion he suffered. I guess no one saw it, at least not the umpires. Out goes Oleg Markov, the former, still a premiership player for Collingwood, but not currently in their best team as it seems. And for Kuwana, also known as Adelaide, it is Sir Doug Nicholls' round, of course. Let's pay tribute to all the great Indigenous players which have played for our clubs and had a massive role in forming the AFL and turning it into one of the great games in this galaxy. I mean, not even in the world, in the whole galaxy. AFL probably is the best game ever invented, and the Indigenous people have had such a major role in that, particularly at Kuwana. I'm talking Andy McLeod, might be the best Indigenous player of all time. But there is no Andy McLeod this weekend. There is no ins or outs for Adelaide. They are going quite well. The line is 11.5, which does make me think, Collingwood, pretty big favourites here, considering the history in this matchup. Now, Collingwood have not lost to Adelaide since 2016, if you can believe that. 2016! That is an unprecedented run of success for those damn Magpies. Collingwood have won their last 4 against Adelaide by a combined margin of 12 points. They just keep finding a way, whether it's at the MCG, whether it's at Adelaide Oval. Those damn Magpies just know how to win the tight ones. Will it be the same again this weekend? I think it will be. I think Collingwood will find a way to win, despite the fact that I don't have their fearless captain and brilliant leader in Darcy Moore. They will just find a way to stop the likes of Thilthorpe and Fogarty and Walker and Rankin from wrecking the game. I'm not saying they won't have good games. I just don't think they'll find a way to wreck the contest, which they do at the Adelaide Oval and against most other opposition. From a betting side of things, I don't mind Thilthorpe for 2 goals and Fogarty for 2 goals. Now, that might seem counter to what I just said, but these guys kick goals no matter what. No matter the opposition, even if they're losing, they find ways to kick goals. And $1.70 and $1.65 each, I just reckon they're going to find a way to get multiple goals with Darcy Moore not in the side. Moore, often criticised as not a great one-on-one defender. This year, he's been fantastic in one-on-one contests. And as the leader of that backline, I've got a feeling that they're about 1 or 2 or 3 goals worse without Darcy Moore, and that might fall into the laps of Fogarty and Thilthorpe. If you're looking at anytime goal scorers, I don't mind Ben Keys and Alex Neil-Bullen, Both been very consistent this season. Alex Neil-Bullen's about $1.90, which is good odds for an anytime goal scorer. And he's played many games at this ground before as a former Melbourne Demon. And Ben Keays, in my opinion, is an all-Australian half-forward. Wherever you want to put him, he's kicked goals on goals on goals. And the way that Adelaide play, it is a high transition game. They're going to beat you at the back with their hard running. And because you've got so much focus, so much energy, so much attention on Walker, Fogarty and Phil Thorpe, the likes of Keays and Neil-Bullen, sometimes find themselves just wide open through the corridors of the MCG or the Adelaide Oval, and they find them for a nice little 25, 30-metre kick, spot them up directly in front of goal, bang, straight through the sticks. That is how I'm envisioning the goals for the Adelaide Crows tomorrow. But having said all that, all those Crows goals, I still think Collingwood will find a way to win in what should be the best contest of the weekend. But that's enough on Adelaide and Collingwood. Let's move forward to Saturday twilight, and we've got 2 twilight games this weekend, which is a bit interesting. We don't usually have the dual twilight or the dueling twilight akimbos, as I like to call them. The first one that I'm going to get stuck into is in Adelaide. It is Yatapulti, also known as the Port Adelaide Football Club, taking on the Geelong Cats. Now, the ins and the outs, Willie Rioli returns from his, well, was it a suspension? Was he actually suspended? I don't know, because the AFL said they would have suspended him, but he withdrew from the game. So you make up your mind what the actual punishment was there for Willie Rioli. And in comes Logan Evans. Out goes Kane Farrell, who's dealing with a injury for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Look, I'm not an injury expert. I can get the AFL app up here. But on this stupid thing, on the AFL website, they don't tell you the actual injury. They just say injury. So I need to go on each team's bloody social media page to find out the actual injury. You're making it harder than it has to be. Look, I'm on the AFL injury list right now. Let's see if they've updated Kane Farrell's injury, which happened days ago, and they put it on the actual injury list. And I can tell you, okay, I know you're all waiting with bated breath. Kane Farrell has a knee injury, okay? He's out 4 to 6 weeks. Now you know. Out also goes Jed McEntee. And for the Geelong Cats, in comes Jack Henry, in comes Lawson Humphries, out goes Ted Closey, out goes Jai Clark. Henry obviously returning from his hamstring injury he suffered at the very start of the season, and Lawson Humphries has cleared concussion protocols. The line for this one is 8.5 points the Geelong Cats way. I like the Cats to win. Off a loss, they're usually pretty strong. I just think Port are not travelling that well at the moment. I know that they've got a decent record at home, but let's look at this over the last 4 to 6 weeks rather than just the last 2 weeks. Since their great win in Gather Round against Hawthorn, what have they really shown? They've been disappointing multiple times. They've been smashed out in Mars by the Doggies. They lost a close showdown, which they had every chance to win. I just haven't been impressed by any facet of the game, particularly their midfield, which was meant to be their biggest strength since that great win against the Hawks. I just have doubts whether this year is going to be one of any great value or any sort of gains for this club, particularly with the coaching changeover likely to happen in the back end of the year. I'm not saying Ken's going to get sacked. I don't think he will, but he might get tapped on the shoulder by like around 18, 20, saying maybe it's in the best interest. We give you a home send-off, you get to say farewell, and Kari comes in and implements some things for some of our younger players to get us set up for the next season. I'm just thinking long-term with Port Adelaide. And short-term for this game, I like the Cats to win this one. Betting-wise, I like Bailey Smith, 25 touches. I like Connor Rosie, 25 touches, the medalist last weekend in the showdown. He was brilliant. And I like 1 goal for Rioli and 1 goal for Powell Pepper. Now, you might come thinking, Slam, you keep giving tips for the team you said won't win the game. Well, just because I don't think they will win the game doesn't mean I think they will compete in the game. This line is 8.5. The Crows line was 11.5. You want to bet the underdogs' disposals, the underdogs' goals, because usually there's more value in them because they're not expected to happen. Now, this game's at Adelaide Oval. Willie Rioli and Sam Powell-Pepper have amazing records at Adelaide Oval kicking goals. Rosie just had 30 touches at Adelaide Oval. He's very good there. And Bailey Smith is probably top 8 in the Brownlow right now. That's how good he's been, all right? No, you don't get suspended for giving the finger at anyone. It's just a $1,000 fine. So I think bet the underdog teams to get disposals to bet goals, and the odds will be in your favour. But I do like the Cats to win this game. We'll go forward. Well, not really forward. It's the exact same time. It is twilight time. It is 4:15, and it is in Western Sydney at NG Stadium. We've got the GWS Giants taking on the Fremantle Dockers. Yes, those Dockers who have been out of form for the last couple of months. well, really the whole season. Let's be serious. In comes Darcy Jones for the Giants. In comes Toby Bedford, Mr. Snooze, the best tagger in the business. And out goes Jake Stringer, and out goes Josiah Delana. Jake Stringer obviously suffered a hamstring injury on the weekend against the Cats after kicking 2 goals in the first half. In for the Freo Dockers comes Bailey Banfield. Oh, wait, have I stuffed this up? Freo, also known as Wally Up / Fremantle. Sorry for all the people that were waiting for me to say Wally Up. That is not a bad name, but I actually don't mind the logo for Freo from Wally Up. It was confusing looking on the TV. I'm like, Gold Coast are playing against the big purple dragons, but no, it is the Fremantle Dockers. In comes Bailey Banfield. Out goes Sean Darcy with yet another knee injury. Big surprise there. The line of... Wait, this can't be right. The line is nothing? The line can't be nothing. I've got the wrong line here. GWS taking on Freo. Let's get the sports bet app up. No sponsor of the show, don't worry about that. No one gives me any money. But GWS taking on the Freo. The line is... It is 18.5. Oh, it's a tough one. But due to the fact that the Freo have struggled to put points on the board this year, it might not be too much. I do like the Giants. I'd like them to win by 20 as well. I just think they're going to respond back at home after some dour performances the last couple of weeks. I know they beat the Cats, but in my opinion, a bad loss against the Sydney Swans in the Battle of the Bridge, as they call it, the Sydney Showdown, whatever they want to call it up there. I think the Giants need a statement win against Fremantle, and luckily enough, Freo have never won at this stadium. That's right, they are 0-4 at NG Stadium / Giants Stadium / Sydney Showgrounds Stadium / whatever name it used to be called. They never won there. Usually they play in Perth or they play in Canberra, but they're heading to Western Sydney. They got pumped by about 10 goals there, I think 2 years ago. It's not been a good place where they've had any sort of results that have gone their way. I like the Giants to take care of business in terms of betting wise. In terms of disposals, I don't mind Jordan Clark for 20 touches. I don't mind Luke Ryan for 20 touches. I don't mind Lockie Ash and Finn Callaghan to both have 25 disposals. I'm going to stay away from Brayshaw. Going to stay away from Sarong as well, just because Bedford will likely tag one of them and curtail their influence. We're going to stick with the halfback flankers on Saturday twilight time between the Giants and Wally Up, 4:15 NG Stadium. Let's move forward to the next game. It is Saturday night football under the lid at Marvel Stadium. It is Marngrook at Marvel. It is the Doggies taking on my Bombers. 7:35. These are the ins and the outs for Saturday night football as I get them out. As you're watching here on YouTube, Taylor Duray, the dual premiership Hawk, comes in for the Doggies. So does Arthur Jones. Out goes Harvey Gallagher and out goes Caleb Poulter. In for Essendon comes Jaden Laverty. Dossa is back for his first game of the season. Out goes Lewis Hayes, who suffered a hamstring injury. Lewis Hayes, our pride and joy, number 18, he suffered a terrible ACL injury, which was very sad to see in debut. But I thought he played pretty well, likely get a new deal as well, and we'll move forward and hopefully get him back on the park next year. I think he could be a really nice player, Lewis Hayes. I watch a lot of Essendon VFL, looks very strong. Particularly Ridley out for the next 7 to 8 weeks. He had a great opportunity to audition for this spot. Unfortunately, injury has hit the Bombers once again. Can you believe it? The Bombers have 3 ACLs and an Achilles, and it's not even round 10. That's 4 picks in the mid-season draft, most likely to help bolster this list. The line of 12.5 the Doggies way, the line of 24.5, I must say, the Doggies way is interesting to me. Even though I'm an unapologetic, biased Bombers fan, I don't think we should be getting 24.5 points, considering we won this game last year by about 35 points and our decent form at Marvel. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I dare say we very rarely get pumped at Marvel, let alone by another Victorian team. Doggies have a great record against us, though. Since 2015 and Luke Beveridge became coach of the Western Bulldogs, Essendon has won twice against the Doggies and they've won 9 times. That is a really strong record. That record of being undefeated against Essendon was only broken during COVID when 7-seater Peter, 2-meter Peter Wright kicked 7 goals against the Doggies in an empty Marvel Stadium. That's what stopped the rot, which was Essendon's record against the Western Bulldogs. And of course, last year they had a very nice win against the Doggies. But look at the names that played last year. Treloar and Jack McRae led the Doggies in disposals. and Jake Stringer and Harry Jones kicked 2 goals for Essendon. None of those players are playing on Saturday night. Jamaro's not playing. Sam Darcy's not playing. All these players played relatively well last time Essendon played the Bulldogs. So there's not much prior history I want to go off for this one. I just think the Doggies coming back from Darwin, which is a very depleting and energy-sapping trip, could help Essendon in the last quarter and in the second half, which is why I think the line of 24.5 points does favour the Bombers. From a betting side of things, I don't mind Merritt 25. I know he got tagged last week by James Jordan, but the Doggies very rarely tag or have a hard tag. So 25, in my opinion, looks like a good line for Merritt at $1.40. Tom Liberatore, 25 plus. He just had 36 against the Gold Coast Suns, who are a very strong inside and contested team. Essendon are okay at centre clearances, but not necessarily blessed with a lot of big bodies. I think Libba will be able to do what he wants in this contest. Archie Roberts, the enforcer himself, at 20 plus disposals. Joel Frazier, 20 plus disposals. Sammy Durham, 20 plus disposals. And on the goals side of things, I don't mind Langford and Kako to both kick 1 apiece. Now, obviously, you're not going to put all those legs in a multi. That'd be like a 30-leg multi. If you want to look at that, look at Slam Slips on Sportsbet. I've got it all there for you. But pick the ones you like. I mainly stick with disposals. I'm not going to put all the disposals, but mainly the bigger names and the people I trust to get the job done week on, week out. I'm going to tip the Bombers because I'm brainless and I think we're a big chance to win, and I'm going with 7 of my best friends. Or you want me to name them all right now in the podcast? Let's do it. Xander's coming. Dane's coming. Hadger's coming. Slen's coming. Ratchet's coming. Corey's coming. Adrian's coming. Yarns is coming. We're all coming hard tomorrow night to watch the Bombers take on the Doggies. Oh yeah, I'm mad right now. I've got mad dog's disease, okay, because I want to beat them so badly. But I think we'll go very well against the Doggies, but it will be a close contest, and we expect a big crowd under the lid at Marvel Stadium. That's enough to get out that game. Let's move forward to Sunday football. And of course, we don't have all the ins and the outs for Sunday football, so we're going to breeze through this one. We're going to discuss the lines and any sort of potential bets we might be interested in. But if you've watched this show for the last couple of months, you know I don't usually bet on Sunday football until it gets to Sunday morning. I look at my bet slip and think, okay, I've lost every single bet. Let's go. Let's train in the morning. Let's work out. Let's hit the sauna. And let's put together a big multi of the 3 games remaining. But we'll wait for that until Sunday in case we need to break the glass and there is an emergency and our bet slips are all toast. But before we do all of that, let's go at the teams on Sunday. It is a big game at the MCG. It is North Melbourne taking on Richmond. These are the teams. These are the ins and the outs. Now, I don't have any definitive outs right now as I... Hold on. Let me pull this team down so you can see it properly. Into the squad for Richmond is Caleb Smith and Campbell Gray and Jasper Olga. And in for the North Melbourne squad is Zach Fisher, Will Dawson and Will Phillips. The line is 11.5 points. North Melbourne are the favourites. Will they get it done? Is this time for North Melbourne to finally win their second game of the season? Is this going to be the week that North Melbourne win their second game of the season? They were so close last week against Brisbane on Mother's Day. They were so close against Essendon 2 weeks ago. I just don't think they've gotten a reward for their efforts so far this season. They've been improved. They've been better than they were over the last couple of seasons, but they still haven't been able to get the W. They haven't been able to get the 4 points. 2 points, that's okay. You need the 4 points. You need the maximum if you want to progress in this season and give a bit of confidence to your players and your fans that you are to be reckoned with going forward. I think North will win this game. I think they've got more quality. I think the A-graders will show up like they did against Melbourne a couple of months ago. It will be Xerri, it will be Sheasel, it will be LDU, and it will be Nick Larkey that hopefully can turn North Melbourne towards their second win of the season. Having said all that, I don't think it'll be easy. I mean, Richmond have won 3 games already this year. I went on this podcast and said they won't win 2 games. They might struggle to win 1 game. Boy, was I wrong. Boy, was everybody wrong. They had a great win in round 1 against Carlton. They had a great win against the Gold Coast Suns a couple of weeks ago, and they were able to stick out with a gutsy win against the West Coast Eagles last Sunday. Will they win 4 by round 10? I don't think so. Just because that would be so embarrassing to North Melbourne to be passed by Richmond in one off-season with all the changes they've had. I think they're going to show a bit of fight, they're going to have a bit of pride and a bit more determination to win this contest. North will find a way to get home, but I'm not convinced it will be by 12 points. I think it might be by under a kick. Let's move forward to Sunday afternoon at the Gabba, and it is Brisbane hosting Melbourne. The line is 31.5 points Brisbane's way. Ins and outs. Don't really know too much on the ins and outs just yet. Why is this website doing this to me? Bloody Andrew Dillon doesn't know how to crop a page properly. In comes Devin Robertson. In comes Kidden Coleman. In comes Ty Gilp. In comes Connor McKenna. Out goes Jared Berry, suffering from concussion. And into the Melbourne squad is Jake Malcolm, Bailey Laurie, Blake Howes, Tom Fulton, Harrison Petty, Aidan Johnson. Geez, a few names there. Out goes Jacob Van Rooyen. Out goes Colton Tholstrup. Say that again, Colton Tholstrup. And out goes Matthew Jefferson. They've dropped 2 key forwards there, the Demons. Interesting to see what they go with in this game. I think Brisbane will be far too good for Melbourne in this one. Only way I can see Melbourne really competing, as I change screens here, is a Max Gawn masterclass, which he has produced quite a few times this season. We saw how much the big O Oscar McInerney struggled last week against Tristan Xerri, who had 140-point rankings half, one of the best games of the last decade, if you can believe that, against big O Oscar McInerney. It's really the only way I can see them competing in this one, because the defense isn't strong enough to contain this rampant Brisbane forward line once the ball gets delivered into them by their brilliant midfield. McCluggage, Ashcroft, Neal, Dunkley, I'm missing someone. McCluggage, Ashcrofts, Neal, Dunkley, Rayner pinch hitting. You've got all these great players. Zach Bailey up on a wing half forward. There's too much quality in Brisbane's team. They're very good at home. I just think it's going to be a workmanlike win where they win by 25 points, barring a Gawn masterclass. We'll all watch it, but we won't be too moved by it. We'll all be thinking, wow, North Melbourne just won that game by 5 points. Thank God that happened, or it's too embarrassing for the AFL. Then we watch this game and think, okay, Brisbane are a pretty good team. They're just going to get the results over Melbourne. Move forward to the last game of the round. It is West Coast taking on St. Kilda at Optus Stadium in Perth. It is 4:40 Melbourne time. That last game was 3:20 Melbourne time. I'm a bit biased here. I only talk about Melbourne time, okay, because I live in Melbourne. I live with my parents. Let's get serious. 4:40 Melbourne time, Optus Stadium, West Coast and St. Kilda. The line is 19.5 St. Kilda's way. Let's look at the teams right here. Now, ins and outs don't have many to look at because it is only Friday afternoon. Into the West Coast squad is Oscar Allen, their captain. In is Bo Allen. No relation. In fact, they're spelt different. In comes Clay Hall, and in comes Jackie Williams. Out goes Archer Reid, the brother of our saviour, Zach Reid. And in comes Angus McLennan, Mason Wood, Toby Travalia, Ari Schonmaker. And in comes Harry Boyd. Hopefully he plays. And out goes Dougal Howard with a serious hamstring injury. And out goes Liam Stocker. This game is that classic Sunday night special. Usually you're having dinner. You've even got two eyes on this game. You've got one eye on it, and you've got one eye on your SuperCoach team or your bet slip or the work you need to get ready for Monday morning if you're employed. Not really me. I don't work Monday mornings. I do a review show. But yes, it's not a game of great interest to many people, but you got some good players rolling around there. You got Harley Reid. You got Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller. Yeah, you got him. You got Jackson Clare, you got Jack Higgins, you got Rowan Marshall. It's a bit of interest, a bit of SuperCoach interest. I think Saints will be too good for West Coast. Let's be serious. They haven't won a single game this season. It's hard to watch the Eagles some weeks. Last week they could have won, but it's against a Richmond team with an average age of about 13. Okay, they need to start winning games West Coast, or it could be the first winless season I could ever remember. People were saying on Twitter, no team has gone winless in the AFL era. I have to do my research on that one, but they might be correct. I haven't seen a team be that bad. We had expansion teams in GWS and Gold Coast. They both won games in their first season. We had Port Adelaide bring the tarps out because no one wanted to attend their games. They couldn't win any games. They still won a couple of games. We had Essendon with a group of top-ups, a bunch of people off the street. We had Sam Michael, Nathan Grimer, Matthew Stokes, James Kelly, people I don't even want to mention, unmentionables when it comes to AFL players. They won a game. They won a game in round 2. We cannot sit here and let the West Coast Eagles go winless this season. I don't think they will. They will find a way to win. It could be this week, but I don't think it will be. I think the Saints will have too much juice, too much firepower, too much class from Sinclair and Wanganeen-Miller and Jack Steele to get the result over in Perth. That's it. That is the preview for round 10. Hope you're all up to date. You know all the ins and outs. You know all the good players to bet on this weekend. And you're excited for a big round of footy. To finish things off, I'm going to just talk about quickly there's one big SuperCoach trade I'm undecided on. Now, if you could give me some information, if you could tell me what to do in the next 6 hours, next 5 hours, that would be great. What do I do with Tom De Koning? He's projected to miss 1 week with a bruised larynx. He's averaging 113 in SuperCoach. But if he was to miss next week, if the Blues exercise a little bit of caution, then that's 3 weeks of no Tom De Koning. None against the Swans, no score next week, and no score for his bye week, which is coming up very soon. What do we do, people? Do we trade him? Do we get aggressive? If you don't own Max Gawn, if you don't own Tristan Xerri, do you go get them and say, hey, these are the 2 best players in SuperCoach. I need to own them. Tom De Koning's been great. He's made a bit of money. He's averaged 113. He's done his job. Out you go. You go, boop, boop, boop. Out you go. You've done your job. You are now sacked. You're fired. You're done. Do we do that? I don't know. I'm still undecided. Harry Boyd might play for the Saints if you got him as cover. I mean, that's an extra player on field for what? It's best 22. Probably not going to increase your ceiling very high to have Harry Boyd, but at least it's cover for 1 week. You hope De Koning plays next week, and you carry on with your natural build of your team. You don't blow up trading away a premium. If you guys have some answers for me, I would love to hear them. Hopefully in the pregame, Michael Voss just says, you know what? We expressed extreme caution this week. Tommy De Koning will be back next week against the Giants at Marvel Stadium. He's our best ruckman by far. He's one of our best players. We need him out there in what is a contract year to go and help us win games. Or do they say, well, we love Tom De Koning. We want him to be here for the next 5, 6, 7 years. We're not going to put him out there with a bruised larynx, not against the Giants. It's one more game. We will rest him, then rest him through the bye. That is a good month off to recover from that injury and have him fit and firing for the rest of the season. I don't know which way they're going to go. If you have inside knowledge, please tell me, because I'd like to make the correct decision in SuperCoach. But until then, we'll figure it out. In the next 5 hours, please tell me what to do. But that's it. That is the preview for round 10. Hope you all enjoyed it. It was a pleasure, as always, delivering it to you. I'll be back on Monday. I promise you it is time for a review show. We haven't reviewed how good Essendon's been going for the last 5, 6 weeks. Okay, let's be honest. We've won 5 of the last 6 games. Against the bottom 6, let's ignore that for now. But yeah, it is time for a review show and to get stuck in to all the goodness from this weekend. But until then, I wish you farewell. Enjoy the footy. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Slam Talk Sports on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. Love you all. Enjoy your weekend. Slam out.